Driving Business.
Hello there. Very good morning. Thank you so much to you watching us, of course, and getting to tune in at this point in time. This is Financial Markets, and my name is Anthony. It's the Monday edition, and we get to, of course, look at the weekend and see what definitely transpired where you were not. My name is Anthony. Remember to follow me on Twitter. That is at Anthony Sebale. And you can also get to Smart24 TV at Smart24 TV. And follow us, and of course get the latest on business and the latest in what's happening in the global and regional markets. Now, of course, it was the short weekend with the public holiday, and yesterday was Mother's Day, and we celebrated mothers here in Uganda. We celebrate mothers on Smart24 TV, and we say we are very, very proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing, keep pushing. We are definitely advocating for more mothers and better motherhood as well for those that are still lacking in that area. Now, Financial Markets is proudly brought to you by the Altex East Africa Company, and Altex says you can do something new with their Zabu initiative. Now, Altex is a platform of trading, and especially in the treasury bond market. And Altex says you can be able to access the market using your mobile money and your mobile phone. Simply go to your phone and dial *292# and follow the prompts. When you do so, you will be able to not only buy and sell, but learn more about the product, get to know what the bonds are and how you can be able to trade with them. And you can also get to choose the periods you want to trade for, or the maturity periods of the fixed income securities that you would want to trade in East Africa. The markets are not limited to Uganda. They are, of course, spread wide across East Africa, in Kenya and Tanzania as well. Altex Markets opens at 15 past 8 a.m. and closes at 15 past 3 p.m. You can do something new with Altex East Africa. Let's get right to the business of Friday. Friday was a quite very good day on the Uganda Securities Exchange, starting off with especially the when you look at the participants. We had 5 participants in trading on Friday. Comparing that with Thursday, we had 4 equities, and so there was pretty much better trading, especially across the main board of the Uganda Securities Exchange. Amongst the 5 listings, we had about a couple of them that, of course, are the usual faces on the participants list, like Stanbic Bank Uganda, Wumeme recording the biggest volume, Bank of Baroda Uganda, as well as Uganda Clays coming in as a mover on the market, and a couple of other stocks as we are going to see later on. But the day significantly ended with 3 gainers and 5 losers on the market, with Nation Media Group coming in at the top of the gainers. Nation Media Group appreciated at least 2.93% rather on the Uganda Securities Exchange, and this was to a price of 447.44 Ugandan shillings. The Kenya Airways stock as well lifted the price by 0.12% upwards to 104.18 Ugandan shillings. Stanbic Bank Uganda continued as well to improve the performance by gaining at least 0.08%. upwards to a total value of 26 shillings per share. This was after a gain of 0.02 shillings on the Uganda Securities Exchange on Friday. When you look at the Stanbic Bank stock, it's one of those stocks that are doing quite well, and I would put Stanbic in the same league as Wumeme, currently following the trends and the performances. However, of course, the Stanbic Bank stock is, of course, much more affordable. And basically also that, as an investor, it gives you an edge when you have a stock that is affordable over a stock that is quite a little bit more expensive. So much as they might be offering almost the same exact amount of value, the same exact performances, there's definitely a better deal to deal with someone who is much more affordable. And that is why Stanbic Bank Uganda really comes in handy in this particular case. Stanbic's profit last year, 2022, was 366 billion, and their dividend will be declared very, very soon, and we'll let you know when that happens. But on Friday, they had about 40,700 shares traded at 1.06 million Ugandan shillings on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Current performance indicators like the 1 week performance show Stanbic Bank as a gainer of 0.97% in the last 1 week of trading. That's how much value they have been able to accrue. And in the last 4 weeks, it's almost 18.2%. Whereas in the last 3 months, we're having at least a value of 23.8%. The story begins, of course, with the beginning of 2023. The stock began with prices as low as 21, giving it an edge to, of course, start off the year at the bottom and have nowhere else to go apart from, of course, the top. And now currently the stock is at 26. Now that's an addition of 5 shillings. Yes, 5 shillings. But when you put this in perspective, when you put it in the percentages, it makes more meaning, because there you get to know what every single person investing on the market has been able to gain as value. And the market is about value addition. The market is about investing for the sake of return. So we want to know what percentages is a person investing 26 billion going to be able to gain in value. It means in the last 3 months, they have gained 23.8%. So if it's 100 million, you definitely have 123.8 million. That's why it's always important for you to understand these movements in prices and in terms of percentages. Currently, Stanbic Bank Uganda is the second biggest performer on the year-to-date performance note. And shareholders can also be optimistic about the company's participation in trade. After, of course, in the last 3 months, it turns out to be the #1 most traded on stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange over the past 3 months. The total value of shares in this period has been over 124 million shares, valued at 2.85 billion Ugandan shillings on the Uganda Securities Exchange. That is Stanbic Bank for you there on the gainers list. Now, on the losers list, we had a list about 5 equities. Stern-term investments coming at the bottom at a 4.6% price depreciation, and the Equity Bank Limited coming down by 2.26%, as well as East African Breweries Limited at a 1.94% decline at 3,910 shillings closing, whereas MTN Uganda continued to depreciate further at a 1.24% depreciation, and Jubilee Holdings Limited was down by 0.44%. Now, there is a lot, of course, to know about these companies, and sometimes we might not have enough time to break down each and everything, but we always get to at least give you an idea of what is currently happening in these companies. It's very, very important as an investor for you to know some of the data that is, of course, coming out of these companies, especially in as far as their financial results, in as far as their financial statements, in as far as their cash flow statements is concerned. Equity Bank Limited, of course, has reports showing that their digital space has expanded quite abruptly in the recent past, and it indicated in its report that only 6% of transactions that are done at Equity Bank Limited are actually conducted inside the banking halls, something that can be, of course, attributed to the effort the company has been able to put in the digital transactions. A detail signaled a massive shift to new channels of financial transactions, among which especially included the agency banking, quite famous nowadays and popular, the digital banking, as well as mobile and internet banking, among others. While presenting their bank's financial results for 2022, for the period ended December 2022, the managing director of Equity Bank Limited, Mr. Anthony Chituka, said that the technology has been able to enable them to conduct 94% of their transactions outside their branches, outside the banking halls. However, he said that the value of transactions conducted inside banking halls remains higher at 694 billion Ugandan shillings compared to the digital channels. The shift, he said, therefore necessitated realignment of the bank's financial network and services through agency and digital banking systems. During the period also, Mr. Chituka indicated that the bank's agency banking network had grown to more than over about 8,000 agents from 7,727 agents back in 2021, transacting 13 billion over the year. Therefore, he said that the bank will continue to invest in digital banking channels to enable it, of course, reach out to more and more unbanked Ugandans. Equity Bank Limited was the first financial institution in Uganda to operate an agency banking platform that is on record currently, and it operates a standalone platform away from the shared agent platform that is operated by the Agent Bank Company, which has more than 20,847 units or agents shared between or more than about 20 banks. Mr. Chituka also indicated that the growth in transactions outside the banking halls had been boosted by other digital banking channels, among which included the easy stock financing, which is something that they're doing at Equity. That's, of course, news coming in from Equity Bank Limited. I thought that would be handy for you to know some of the things that are happening in these companies, especially around this time when we have most of them release their financial results. Now, away from Equity Bank Limited, another stock that did lose on the market was MTN Uganda, losing at least 1.24% down to 165. Now, what's happening currently at the MTN company? There's quite a number of things for us to actually get to know currently when you look at MTN. Now, the company says that there was growth in the year 2022. When you look at their performance, generally there was growth in the data, fintech includes incomes. Of course, this tried to cushion effects from MTN's declining voice revenues. During the quarter to March, the data subscribers grew by 25%. That's by about 6.7 million, while the active fintech subscribers rose by 14% to at least about 10.9 million people or subscribers. Growing revenues from data and fintechs or financial technologies cushioned, of course, MTN's voice income to register an increase in the service revenue for the period ended March. Voice remains MTN's largest revenue earner, but has, of course, in the recent few days and recent periods or months, has been under pressure, registering declines or flat growth in the last 5 years. Details published in the financial results for the quarter ended in March. MTN reported at least 15.8% of increase in the service revenue driven by data and fintech. For instance, during the period in the first quarter of 2023, data subscribers grew 25% to at least 6.7 million, while active fintech subscribers rose to 14%. That's about 10.9 million. The revenue from fintechs, these are financial technologies under MTN, as a contribution to service revenues increased by 28.1% from 27% last year. That's about from 174.8 billion to about 144.7 billion currently. That is some of the, of course, data coming in from the first quarter of 2023 in as far as MTN's performance is concerned. Moving on, the all share index shed off at least 15.97 points, and this was down to about 1,053 points on Friday, representing a 1 week loss of 3.72% and a 4 week loss of at least 7.43%, and an overall year to date loss of at least 13.14% on the market. The local company index decreased as well by 0.63%. That is, of course, due to MTN's decline in performance on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Let's move on to Nairobi and have a look at Nairobi Securities Exchange performance on Friday. Nairobi Securities Exchange slightly dropped in performance, generally speaking. This is, of course, from the all share index. Looking at their all share index regarding this performance, there was at least 4.76 points dropped off the all share index, which is the biggest index representing all the 65 listings on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Now, when you look at the current performance also, we had about 49 listed companies participate in trade and about 8 gainers and 26 losers on the market. Standard Group led the gainers with a gain of 6.59%, and this was to at least 9.70 per share. Standard Group is, of course, a company, a media house there in Kenya, especially in the printed media, a very popular media house there in Kenya. Nairobi Business Ventures appreciated 5.71%, and Home Africa at least 3.45%, whereas the East African cables at least added 2.22% on Friday. On the losing side, Safaricom came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 9.86%. That is slightly lower than, of course, what we actually much higher than we would have expected. But yes, the company now is at 13.25 Kenyan shillings. Safaricom stock price is falling from the sky. Now, currently, the company's stock is valued at 531 billion Kenyan shillings. And much as it is still the number one most valuable company, the company's recent performance is quite worrying. In the past 1 week, where things seem to be getting a little bit better at the beginning of the week, things became worse, and the company ended with 15.9% losses in last week's trade. In 4 weeks, we have dropped off at least 27.8% on Safaricom's stock price, and the past one quarter of 3 months, about 3% has been, 45% has been shed off from the market value of Safaricom. That is, of course, news coming in from Safaricom there. Away from Safaricom, we did have several other stocks losing, such as Unga Group losing at 8.7%, the Elam Fahari, and as well as Liberty Kenya Holding losing at least 7.75%. Safaricom recorded the biggest volume, however, at 41.6 million shares, and Cooperative Bank of Kenya at 1.76 million shares as well. KCB Group also had about 164,900 shares traded on Friday. That's it from Nairobi. You can check out Nairobi Securities Exchange trading at www.nse.org. You can see the live trading. They do have several products which I would want you to check out, especially for investors interested in diversity. You can check out the derivatives. They do have derivatives on the stocks. They do have exchange traded funds as well on their stocks, and definitely a couple of other more products than we have here on our market in Uganda. Now, in other news, especially concerning the public debt of Uganda, of course, when we talk about public debt, we are definitely talking about the treasury bond market and the yields therein. Remember, in this year's budget, the Uganda budget, the parliament actually did, of course, approve some of these. We've been through so many stages of the budget process. Much has not yet finalized, but everything points out to a decline in the domestic borrowing. There's been a high decline in domestic borrowing. Now, data from Bank of Uganda shows that the public debt that is, according to the statistics included in Bank of Uganda's report, recently, the report of April. The debt has grown in March, just the month of March, to a tune of 86.35 trillion by the month of March, by the end of the month of March, approximately about 49.6% of the GDP. The share of interest payment in public debt increased also by 2.9% in the quarter ended in March, according to Bank of Uganda. That's according to the details contained in their economy report, which assesses, of course, macroeconomic developments there on our, of course, the Bank of Uganda market analysis. But, of course, we definitely hope for a few changes in the treasury bond market. The yields have been going down, so have been the interests, and there's been less and less domestic borrowing from especially Bank of Uganda. Moving to the international market, stocks on Wall Street lead through Friday with all the major indices, the three major indices logging in gains both for the session and the week, the lowest gains for the session and the week. Nearly around 1:15 p.m. or 15 past 1 p.m. Eastern Time, the S&P 500 was already off more than about 0.5% on Friday, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average was down by 0.4%, and the Nasdaq was off nearly 0.8%. Now, definitely this could have been attributed to data on inflation. Stocks had opened on Friday, especially in the morning hours, much higher, but the gains were forfeited by the late morning trade after consumer sentiment data from the University of Michigan on Friday showed a notable increase in consumer inflation expectations. All three major indices are on a pace to low weekly losses as of Friday afternoon. Of course, the weekend ahead, investors were also continuing to closely track updates on the ongoing debt ceiling negotiations in the United States, with a key meeting between President Joe Biden and the House Speaker Kevin McCarthy postponed until this week. That's it, my friend. Thank you so much for tuning in and for joining us this morning. Definitely, I'm glad you did so. We will have more interactions, of course, online. You can go to our Twitter handle at Smart24TV. You can also go to our YouTube channel to watch more of our shows that have been recorded in the past and get to follow up with what's happening currently on the different markets. Remember also to check out Altex East Africa. If you are an ardent trader in the treasury bond market, you definitely want to check out Altex by simply dialing *292# and following the prompts and going ahead, of course, to invest across East Africa's biggest treasury bonds. My name is Anthony, and I'm so glad you joined me today. I'll catch you tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a good day.